What is something that was crazy at the time but proven to be correct? That the platypus was a real animal. The researcher who received the first specimen back in Europe was certain he was being pranked and meticulously dissected it to try to find where it was sewn together. Famous author Ernest Hemingway told his friends and family he believed the FBI was spying on him. They all told him he was paranoid or crazy. Years after his death, his suspicions were confirmed when the FBI declassified their spying on him. The spokes in the rings of Saturn, originally observed by an amateur and dismissed as an optical illusion for the better part of a century, the Voyager probes confirmed their existence. The experts thought that the spokes couldn't be real because they appeared to rotate at the speed of the planet, not the speed of the rings. Turns out they follow the magnetic field of the planet. Edit. My memory failed me in this case. Stephen O'Meara was the amateur astronomer, and he made his observations in the early 70s. So not the better part of a century. I read the story originally in an amazing book, Seeing in the Dark, by Timothy Ferris, that stomach ulcers were caused by the Helicobacter pylori bacteria. Conventional medical wisdom was that stomach ulcers were caused by lifestyle factors. The bacteria theory was met with great skepticism and criticism. One of the researchers, Barry J. Marshall, resorted to proving it by ingesting the H. pylori bacteria. 22 years later, Marshall and Robin Warren were awarded the Nobel Prize for Physiology for their discovery. The Mesolamega floods that carved up the scablands of eastern Washington and Oregon. The geologist who proposed it was ignored when he proposed it, and then derided when he insisted. He lived long enough to see other geologists start to realize he was right, though, so there is some justice to be had. In 1942, conspiracy theories began to spread that Nazis had landed a submarine on a Florida beach and were now living in America. It turns out they actually had. In fact, they landed 2 submarines. One in Maine and one in Florida. https://www.fbi.gov/history/famous-cases/Nazi-saboteurs-and-george-20 of %20 German %20 personnel, a %20 rather %20 desperate %20 attempt %202. Tracy Campbell's The Year of Peril, America in 1942 has a good section on the rumors and eventual discovery that it was true. A dingo really did eat her baby. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Lindy_Chamberlain-Grayton. Pretty much any physics developed post 1890-ish. The movement of continental plates. Germ theory. The Hawaii mailbox conspiracy. Hawaii's former chief of police and his wife, a deputy prosecutor, conspired to have their relative jailed for stealing the mailbox so they could avoid legal issues regarding a property that the relative owned. When the relative's claims of being framed were first reported, a lot of people scoffed at the idea. Why would 2 politically powerful and well-off individuals attempt such an action? Then as information slowly came out, the entire affair was laid bare and it turned out the relative was right. Fallout from the issue has worked its way up beyond the chief of police position to the former prosecutor and other branches of government. A book was written on the subject by the federal public defender assigned to the case, Alexander Silvert. There is much more information in the online reviews. https://www.amazon.com/mailbox-conspiracy-greatest-corruption-history-ebook/dp/b09klbwfr8 https://www.amazon.com/mailbox-conspiracy-greatest-corruption-history-ebook/dp/b09klbwfr8. The scientist who proposed the gut-brain connection used to get laughed out of conferences as a kook. Herodotus described that sailors who sailed south along the African coast saw the sun rise in the north instead of the south. Many at the time thought this proved Herodotus was peddling absurd rumors. Even Herodotus himself expresses doubt about it in the text, but he was in fact correct, as the sun does that when you cross the equator. He also wrote that the Nile floods were caused by melting snows. Again, people thought this absurd. How can you have snow in the blisteringly hot and dry south? He was again proved correct, as the snows are on Kilimanjaro. MKULTRA sounds like one of the most insane idiotic conspiracy theories ever, but actually happen, and Bill Cosby being a rapist, the germ theory. That woman had good reason to sue McDonald's over the temperature of their coffee. Edit. Please do not PM me to argue about this. If you wash your hands after handling corpses in the morgue, then when you go deliver a baby, the mother and infant probably won't die. Harlan Bretz, an American geologist, was laughed out of town for suggesting that the landforms in the area between Idaho and the Cascades were formed due to scouring by a huge megaflood at the end of the last ice age. People thought it sounded too biblical, but he was right, that mosquitoes spread diseases like yellow fever and malaria. On October 9, 1903, the New York Times published an editorial that predicted it would take between 1 and 10 million years for a human to develop a working flying machine. On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers completed the first flight in a heavier-than-air machine. The CIA is selling drugs in black neighborhoods to raise money to arm and support a guerrilla army in Latin America. The business plot where a bunch of businessmen decided FDR wasn't who they wanted in charge and attempted to install a retired general named Smedley Butler. Ernest Hemingway was convinced he was being spied on by the FBI and no one believed him. Turns out he was. The number Free Britney movement in the beginning was seen as people reading way too much into things and being weird. They were actually onto something.